Okay, we're on page 1088, verse 21. That seems like a sensible place to begin. V'omar hado acharon b'neichem asher yakumu ma'achareichem v'anochi asher yovu me'eretz choyko v'ro es makois ha'oretz ahi v'es tachalueh asher chila Hashem bo. That later on, what's going to happen? That people are going to come from a distant land and they're going to see that the land is not good. Gofris v'melach sreifa kol atza lo yisizora v'lo yisatzmiach v'lo yale bo kol esef kema pechas zoin v'amora admo v'tzvoyim asher hofach Hashem v'apoy v'chamasoi. That the land is going to be, it's going to be like it was when everything was turned upside down by the storm and Amora. Right? God came along and he turned everything upside down. You know, what's it called? Fire and brimstone, all that kind of stuff. I'm never quite sure what brimstone is, but it's kind of interesting sounding stuff, right? What's the bottom line? The bottom line is that in the Dead Sea area, it's impossible to grow things. Actually, you know what? That's not true. It's impossible to grow things in the ground. People do grow things above the ground. There are greenhouses over there, and they've got they have managed to find ways of being able to grow, but not through the ground. The ground itself is so completely saturated with salt that it's not possible to have anything grow out of it. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying is that there'll be a time when everything is going to be, it's going to be bad, right? There won't be anything to do. You won't be able to grow anything over here. I'll tell you something fascinating. The land of Israel, for hundreds of years, was very barren. From the time that the Jews left Israel after the destruction of the Second Temple, so we're talking about almost 1,000 years ago. Almost 2,000 years ago. The Jews then left and went off into all the different countries that they went off into, and then for hundreds and hundreds of years afterwards, there was very little going on here in the land of Israel. There were a few Jewish families that were left over here. At one point, I think it reached the lowest level that it reached. I think there were 300 Jewish families in the whole of Israel. Right, that's including Jerusalem and including Tzfat and including Tiberias, which are they were the three major areas where the Jews were gathered. Altogether, there were maybe 300 families. I mean, it's like, there was hardly anybody here. And there were lots of nomadic Arab tribes that were over here, and they were busy with their flocks, wandering around, and the whole land was barren. Nothing was growing over here. When the Jews started coming back to Israel, so at the end of the 1800s, the beginning of the 1900s, and then the enormous influx with the establishment of the State of Israel, then at that point the land of Israel started to flourish. Something extraordinary, it really was. My mother said she used to be a serial traveler to the land of Israel, and the first time she came, I think it was in 1954, 1956, she said there was nothing here. The cities that they put up, they were really shanty towns, and there were kibbutzim, and there were bits and pieces, pockets all over the place. That there was hardly anything here. And she said when she used to come, as she got older, and she used to come, and every time she used to come, it was like, she said, the most extraordinary thing it really is, that the state of Israel, you should know, is one of the most miraculous occurrences. That they can build something. There was nothing here, and within 60-something years, they've turned it into what they've turned it into. It's something which, it's certainly not al pi derech hateva. It's not something which is natural, that's for sure not. You see the fingerprints of God all over the place. All over the place. It's something incredible. And barren areas that are now beginning to flourish because of all kinds of incredible Israeli innovations like drip irrigation and computer programs that allow things to happen, and growing vegetables out of the ground, right, which allow you to grow things anywhere, really. All of this stuff is just, it's something incredible. And the non-Jews will come and they'll say, what did God do this to this land for? What brought about this incredible anger from God? You hear what's going on? It's the most incredible Chilul Hashem. You know what a Chilul Hashem is?
And it's a bad reputation for the Jewish people.
Bad reputation, not for the Jewish people, but for God.
Yeah.
Right? Worse. Which means that when we do things that we're not supposed to do, what are we doing? We are being mechalel HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. We're desecrating God's name. So I've told this over on many occasions. I think it's something it's something very important, but it's also something very fascinating. The word chilul comes from the word halal. Halal means a vacuum, which means that when we do things that we're not supposed to do, it's as if we've drawn God out of the area, and now all of a sudden there's a vacuum. God's not there, right? Which is something absolutely terrible. That because we left the pact that God made, we left HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? We left him behind. God took us out of Egypt in order to what? Not in order to give us a land that we can sit there and do whatever we want to do. He took us out of Egypt in order for us to draw ourselves together with him and to agree to live our lives according to the way that God wants us to live our lives, and not the way that we want to live our lives. But what I am saying is that if we've gone to all of the trouble of living in the Jewish state, so at least let that state reflect the fact that it's got Jewish values, at the very least.
Then at the same time, what do you see as Jewish
Jewish values? You know what? I don't even think the question is a question. I really don't. Jewish values are the Torah. You know, you can come along. People can come along and they can say Jewish values are, you know, eating gefilte fish and cholent, and that's what being Jewish is. But that's not true. We know that it's not true. Which means that Jewish values are imbued with the Torah itself. If the Torah is not there, then it's Jewish style, right? You have kosher style restaurants. I mean, what is the point of going to a kosher style restaurant? If you want to eat kosher, eat kosher. If you don't want to eat kosher, I'm sure there's lots of fantastic stuff out there that you could eat and you could enjoy. But what is the point of going to a restaurant which is kosher style? It's just not kosher. To me, I find that really rather befuddling. I really do.
Sad.
Yeah, which means that, again, Nachamal, you've got a nostalgia to eat something kosher, so go to a kosher restaurant. If you want to go and eat, shrimp and pork and bacon, ham, cheeseburgers, whatever they are, go ahead and do that. But what is the idea of eating kosher style? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So I mean, the emphasis, I do get it. I really don't see what the point is. People are trying to retain their ethnic connection to their Jewish background. Right. But that's not what Jewish values are. Jewish values are based on the morality and the ethical dimensions of the Torah, only of the Torah, not of anything else. And if you have kosher style morals and kosher style ethics, that's not it. It's just not it. Being Orthodox is not some kind of a guarantee that you're not going to sin. Unfortunately, there are plenty of Orthodox people who end up doing things that on the Ten Commandments, they're not suggestions. It's not like God saying, I think it would be better if you didn't steal, or I think it might be nice if you didn't commit adultery. It's like saying, don't do it. Right? And there are plenty of Orthodox people that trip up and they end up doing things that they should never have done, right? What would be nice is if there was a recognition that this is who we are. These are our ethics. They really are. These are our morals. And why are they our ethics and our morals? Because they come from God, and they're not changing. You can't change them. It's as simple as that.
And then the issue with that is that you close off certain people being here. For example, let's say a Reform family comes here.
Yeah, no, Nachamal. I'm not closing anybody off to anybody. Really, I'm not. All I'm saying is that the state of Israel needs to reflect not a Jewish flavor. It needs to reflect its Jewish essence. That's what it needs to do.
Islamic people,
I think,
give them a little credit.
They're
more into.
Yeah. I think it's terrible. I really do. I think it's absolutely terrible that, for example, in Tel Aviv, there is a fight now in Tel Aviv about whether people can or cannot open stores on Shabbos. They're fighting, and I just don't get it. I just don't. And what will be next in Tel Aviv? What are they going to want? They want to close their stores on Sunday instead, right? I mean, I don't understand it. I just don't. We're Jewish. We have to reflect that. The most incredible story of Ari Levine, who was one of the great leaders just before the establishment of the State of Israel. He was known as the rabbi of the prisoners. Right, all the Jewish prisoners that were arrested by the British that got taken off to prison, he would go and he was their rabbi, even though a lot of these people weren't the least bit from. but he had the most incredible connection with them, and he worried about them, and he davened for them, and he went every Shabbos morning to be with them and to pray with them, and he would bring messages backwards and forwards, and he was extraordinary. He was known, he loved everybody. And he said, they tell a story that he once heard about a Jewish makolet owner who his shop was open on Friday, right? After Shabbos came in on Friday night, his store was still open, the makolet was still open. So it says that he went one Friday, late afternoon, or he's already dressed up for Shabbos, so he's wearing his long black coat and his shtreimel, and he goes over there and he sits down unobtrusively in the corner of the makolet. He's just watching what's going on, and people are coming and people are going and people are coming and it's getting dark outside, and people are still coming and people are still going and more people are coming, and then it's completely dark. It's Shabbos. It's completely dark outside. And it goes quiet. In the store it goes all quiet. There's no one else coming in. So the store owner finally goes over to Rabbi Levine and he says to him, what are you doing here? So Rabbi Levine says to him, he says, I heard that your store was open on Shabbos. He says, and I thought to myself, the reason why you must keep your store open on Shabbos is because it must be very difficult for you to close it, because there must be customers and you must be making money, and it must be very hard for you to say to everybody, no, I'm closing the doors because Shabbos is coming. You hear? And this secular, hardened, anti-religious store owner started to cry. And he says to him, Rabbi, he says, you should know, he says, people stand out my store and they shout, Shabbos, Shabbos, he says, but you're the first person who's ever come in to see, why it's so hard for me. Try to see my side of things. And then Rabbi Levine said to him, he says, if it was up to me, he said, I would let you keep your store open, he says, but Shabbos is Shabbos, it belongs to Hashem, it doesn't belong to me. And a few weeks later, the fellow closed his store. Closed his store miratzon, from his own will, not because he was forced to do it, not because he was coerced to do it, not because people were... I always tell everybody, I never came across anybody who became frum because somebody threw a rock through their windshield. Right? Driving on Shabbos, right? You inadvertently drive through a neighborhood which has got a lot of Orthodox people in it. So, I don't know, all of a sudden somebody, the kids, whoever it is, they'll start throwing things at the car. You ever came across anyone who became frum because somebody threw a rock through their windshield? I never did. I came across lots of people who became frum because they were invited into their frum neighbor's home for a bowl of cholent. Maybe if you throw a bowl of cholent through the windshield, maybe that'll do the job. I don't know, but you're here. We have to be, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? We have to be inclusive. We have to accept some people are more from, some people are less from. That's not the issue. The issue over here is not who's from or who's not. The issue over here is, let's be Jewish.
How about in situations when you can't eat food with people who don't keep?
Here, so look, we have to make a differentiation over here between what other people are doing and what I'm doing.
Like
right?
family members.
I understand entirely. I understand entirely what you're asking, and I also understand why you're asking it as well. That's why I'm starting with an introduction, right? The same way that I have to be able to accept the fact that some people drive on Shabbos, right? But that doesn't mean that I can get in the car and drive together with them. So some people don't keep kosher, or some people don't keep kosher to the level that I keep kosher, and it's a problem to eat by them. For me, it's a problem to eat by them. So I tell you, you know what? It's a very sad thing. You should know that, because very often these people, when they want to invite you and they want you to come and eat by them, they're very, very hospitable people, and they take it personally. And somehow or other, there has to be a way of being able just to let them know that it's nothing personal. I love you very much. I really do. But I can't eat by you. And if you want to go out during the week and we'll find a place that we can go to which is mutually acceptable, that's great, because I do want to spend time with you. I really do. But I can't come round on Shabbos, that's all. And will it hurt them? It'll hurt them. And you want to know the truth. Why does it hurt them? Because they know that what you're saying is right.
Not necessarily. They judge you as extremists.
What's an extreme? I'll tell you something interesting, right? Extremism is only applicable for some inexplicable reason, right? It's only applicable to religion, right? You go around to somebody's house and they are having a carnivorous smorgasbord and you're a vegetarian and you can't find anything to eat, no one will accuse you of being a fanatic. Right?
Yep.
If you're even more than that, let's say you're a vegan. Right? So here they find an egg and they bring it out for you. Right? I'm sorry, I don't eat eggs either. Right? So even if they look at you as being extreme, they'll be very accepting.
No, like they'll say, "What do you mean? The meat that I got is kosher," but it's like then your concern is like the dishes. And
Yeah,
you
for
can't really explain
sure.
that to them.
I really empathize with the problem, and I truly understand it. I really do. And the simplest way to deal with it, you know what? I very often tell people, you know what? If they think you're a fanatic, right? The only way you can combat your fanaticism is by being disgustingly, revoltingly nice, without compromising, right? So of course it's hard, but listen, Rabbi, I reckon you're 2/3 of the way there. I really do. You're all disgusting and revolting, right? But how complicated can it be to be nice as well, right? Which means like this: you think I'm a fanatic because I won't eat in your home, even though you go out of your way and you buy, you go to the supermarket and buy kosher chicken, right? But during the rest of the time you don't keep kosher, so it's a problem for me to eat over there, right? So you think I'm a fanatic. The only way that I can combat your view of my fanaticism is by me being as disgustingly, revoltingly nice as I can be. Again, hold on a second, not as a Kirov project, because that's what you need to be, right? The more thoughtful you are, the more kind you are, the more gentle you are, the less of a problem it becomes. The problem's not going to disappear, but it becomes less personal. I see that he loves me. I see that he cares for me. I see that he wants to be with me. But you know what? He can't eat in my house, and he'll roll they roll their eyeballs, you know.
We really have to refine our personality because we also get judged even harsher.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're right.
And it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. Believe me, I know it's a lot easier to say this than it is to do that. I know that.
It has to do with the government. Take Ben Gurion and the story of Rabbi Levine. He opened up the store because the government didn't want religion to begin with.
Yeah.
So all it has to do with
I'll tell you what we need to be pitching for. What we really need to be pitching for is that we don't need Shabbos legislation. Right, what we need is that the Jewish people that live here should have enough Jewish sensitivity to not want to open their stores on Shabbos. That's all. It's hard, right? I mean, but that's what we need to be. Not because it's being legislated by the government, and not because somebody's standing over them and threatening them with fines if they do something that they shouldn't be doing, but because we should look and we should say, we're a Jewish state, and when I was a kid growing up in England. Today things have changed. But when I was a kid growing up in England, no stores were open on Sunday. Grocery stores were allowed to be open for half a day. That was it. Nothing else was open on a Sunday. Finished, forget it.
Let's say that someone says to you, I really want you to come and eat at my house. Okay, so then you say, do you know what, I'm out for dinner. What happens if I say, do you know what, maybe I'll come for oneg or something? Or should I say, and you're not actually eating their food. They bring out food that's like packaged.
Very, very nice. Right? Very nice. You got somebody and they want you to come by. They want come by on Friday night. Do me a favor, come by and eat the Shabbos meal with us, even though the Shabbos meal is not a kosher meal for you, right? So you say, I'm terribly sorry, I can't come. I really can't.
Well,
but you know what?
Somebody's already,
Whatever. I'll come by later on, right? And we'll sit around and you can eat garinim together. And I don't know what they do in London. I've got no idea what the oneg is, but
It's the part of being nice, like you said.
Yeah.
Diplomatically.
The other thing is that.
Here, can I just say? Let me just add something. I think it's very important. I really do. We seem to make a mistake in imagining that respect is a one-way street. You have to respect me because I'm religious. You have to respect my religious beliefs, which is only true if you respect theirs as well. Which means coming and making all kinds of demands on whoever it is that you're going to. That's not going to win you very many brownie points at all. But if you, like I said, if you show the person that you care for them, you really do, and you want to be with them, It's just a technical issue. I can't eat here, that's all. So after a while, hopefully things will calm down and they'll become, become easier.
Maybe they'll become more cured.
I had family when I was growing up that you couldn't eat there. By my family, most of the problem was Pesach. Eating there on Pesach was a little bit of a problem. just told them we can't come. It's as simple as that, And we used to make sure to go around there at times when it wasn't Pesach, just to, to show that. Try not to take this personally. That's what it comes down to. And some people do, and some people don't. And I find, as a rule, I really do, that the people who take it personally, like really personally, it's because somehow they know that they really know that they should be doing more than they're doing. And they look at that as being, it disturbs them that you can't eat in their home because they're not keeping kosher, which means that if they would keep kosher, then you would be able to eat in their home. Right? And many of these people, they do know. It's interesting, especially by the Sfarim. The Ashkenazim are very much detached, the secular Ashkenazim, but by the Sfarim they do know this, they really do. Whatever. They tell over the story about a fellow who walks into a restaurant, and on the wall is a picture of a very, very orthodox looking rabbi. And so the person comes in, somebody says, do you have a tu'udah? Do you have a certificate? So the owner of the restaurant, he's not a frum guy. He says, no, he says, I don't. He says, but everything here is kosher. He says, look, he says, that was my father. Everything's kosher over here. So the fellow looks, he says, you know what? He says, if it was your father that was standing behind the counter and it was your picture that was up on the wall, he says, then maybe I would eat over here. He says, but not the other way around. Yeah, so you had something else that you wanted to...
I don't know how to put... this is probably going to come out the wrong way, but I think to say a statement such as all shops should be closed on Shabbat.
I'm not saying that all shops should be closed on Shabbat. What I'm saying is that there needs to be a feeling that Shabbat is different from the rest of the week. And it needs to be a feeling which is not imposed upon other people optimally, right, in a utopian existence. It should not be a feeling which is imposed by the government on the shop owners, but rather it should be something that the shop owners themselves understand that this is a great idea not to open on Shabbos.
Why do you feel shops should be open? I mean, you question maybe some shops.
No.
It's not because...
Oh.
It's not because I agree with it or anything like that. It's just because simply that I know that in Pirkei Avot it says all of Israel is sharing the world, so whatever, everybody has a place in Israel. If that's the case, then we can't say, okay, fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can't, in a sense, we can't cancel ourselves down to saying only the Orthodox and only Shomrei Shabbat people deserve to have a place in Israel.
I think, first of all, the state of Israel definitely reflects the very wide spectrum of Jews that live in the world.
It hurts me, the fact that my parents go out for meals. And I say, where are we going tonight? Oh, we're just going to go to the we're going to a non-kosher restaurant. It's like, you're in Israel, why are you going to, why is there that's the side much, which I hate, the fact that there's non-kosher restaurants in Israel. I think that's mad. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, but it's natural. There are lots of non-Jews that live here. Whatever. Again, are we gonna solve the problems? Are we gonna solve the issues? No, we're not. But what we do have to try to do again is that we have to reflect to. I'll tell you something else. Right? We have to reflect to the other people, especially the people that we know and the people that we love. We have to reflect to them our passion about being Orthodox. Which means that regardless of whether they are or whether they're not, it's got nothing to do with it, but I have to be able to show them that I love to keep the mitzvahs. I love to be frum, right? Because they have to see that there's something to all of this. They really do. And is it going to have an effect? I've got no idea whatsoever. That's not the function. The function is that people should see that you are well balanced, that you are a nice person, that you are a good person, and you happen to be frum.
I think there's a line there between the point where you cure of your parents.
No, you should never cure of your parents.
That's what I'm saying. And then how do you do it there?
You don't.
Stick to what you
You know what? I'll tell you an interesting thing. If your parents can come to the conclusion that your being frum is good for you, then you've just hit the jackpot. Right? Regardless of what happens to them. even if they never set foot in a kosher restaurant again for the rest of their lives, right? But the fact that they recognize that it's okay for people to be frum, it's even okay for their son to be frum, that's great, that's fantastic, isn't it? And that's going to be done not by imposing your will on other people, and not by shouting and screaming, and not by forcing, and not by throwing stones at people. It's going to be done only in one way, by showing other people that you love them, and that you love Hashem, and that you love to keep Hashem's commandments. That's what it comes down to.
Just like one thing to say on the subject is that God gave you free will. So what right do you have to try to force someone else's free will out? You don't. Even God wouldn't do that. But then the other thing is, I have a question, what do you do if you're not more well-balanced or adjusted or happy from?
Work on it. Which means, I tell you, my wife's grandfather, Alav Shalom, he was a very, he wasn't a big Talmid Chacham, but he was a big tzaddik, he really was. And we used to phone him every Motzei Shabbos. He lived over here. We used to phone him every Motzei Shabbos and ask him, how is Shabbos? And he had a standard answer. He said, Shabbos is always good. It took me quite a long time to understand what he was saying. Which means that even if he had a lousy Shabbos, it's not Shabbos' problem, it's his problem, right? Shabbos is always good. That's like a refrain in the family. That's like the motif of the family, the logo of the family is Shabbos is always good. Which means that if a person is not feeling that sense of excitement, if a person's not feeling that sense of passion towards wanting to keep and wanting to do and wanting to grow, then it means that the person needs to work on themselves. Again, if that's the path that they've chosen for themselves, they've decided that that's what they want to do, then they need to work on themselves to try to reach that level of wanting. It's quite something, it's really quite something, and I'm not convinced that it's something that you just reach and then you don't have to try ever again afterwards. It's something you've got to keep trying. The whole time you've got to be working on that one. Rav Chatzkel Levenstein, who was the late mashgiach in the Ponevezh Yeshiva, he used to say like this. He used to say that he used to wait to daven the way that other people wait to eat lunch. And I'm telling you that we can all reach that level, right? Sometimes davening, it can be a little bit of a chore, right? And you're saying, I just said this, and especially when you daven Mincha Mariv together with each other, so you just daven the Mincha Mir, and then you daven the Mariv Mir, and it's exactly that I just said that, I just did this, and now it's like deja vu all over again, right? Rav Chatzkel Levenstein was saying that we can all reach a level of wanting the same way that we want to do something. We have that incredible sense of anticipation. So too, when it comes to keeping the mitzvahs, we can have that as well. And it's got nothing to do with being the mashgiach in Ponevezh Yeshiva, and it's got nothing to do with being an incredible Talmid Chacham. It's to do with a mindset. Right? The more you want to do something, the more you'll do it. Right? Like that famous example of somebody who it's difficult for them to get up and go daven in the morning, but they never miss getting up to go travel. They've never once missed their plane. I know, I understand what you're going to say. Everyone's going to say, yeah, but you don't travel every day. It's true, I understand that. And that's really what we have to work upon. Inside of our religious lives, we have to work on the concept of what's called regilut. Regilus is just doing things by rote, doing them over and over and over again. The more you do something, so the more it becomes just like an automated response. For that, we have to be very careful, we really do. And that's hard. I'm not pretending that it's not hard. I know that it's hard, and all of us have to go through the same thing in one shape or form. We're all battling with the same problem, which is, here I am, putting on my tefillin in the morning, and I did this yesterday, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and where exactly is this leading me?
That's the best part.
Huh?
That's the best part. Tefillin.
Putting on the tefillin.
Yeah.
If a person, it's interesting. If you're attached to the mitzvah, then for sure you're 100% right. Take a look at bar mitzvah boys putting on their tefillin for the first time, and then take a look at 20-year-olds putting on their tefillin in the morning, right? And you'll see the difference. Someone who's been putting on his tefillin since his bar mitzvah until he's 20 years old. You just put it on, you come in, you put it on, right? Bar mitzvah boy, it's an enormous thing, it's like the most incredible thrill, it's the most incredible excitement. There's a posuk in Hosea that the prophet Hosea, it says like this. Actually, the truth is, we said in the morning when you put your tefillin on in the morning. So the emphasis by the Ashkenazim. I don't know what the minhag is by the Sfarim. By the Ashkenazim, when you're sort of tying all the straps into place, we say ve'astichli le'olam, ve'astichli le'tzedek u'v'mishpat u'chesed u'v'rachamim, ve'astichli be'emunah ve'datis Hashem. Right? What are we saying? That you know what the word erusin means? Erusin means to be betrothed, to be engaged. Sounds kind of strange. We're saying to God, as we put on our tefillin and we're strapping ourselves in, we're saying that we should be engaged to God forever. It's interesting, no? If anybody here, if you've ever been engaged, the whole function of being engaged is to get married. That's the only reason you're engaged. I mean, unless you've got some kind of a thing about getting engagement presents, which are, maybe that's a reason to get engaged. But I mean, not here. It's not. Maybe in Chutz Laretz it is. I don't know. But the Yipshat. You're getting engaged for what? The only reason to get engaged is so that you can get married. So why does it say ve'astichli le'olam?
You're married to Hashem.
But here it's saying that you're not. It's saying you're betrothed to Hashem.
It's more than marriage.
Why? It's interesting. You're right, but I think you're right for the wrong reason. Why is it more than? Why is it more than marriage?
Because you're not seeing that physical person. It's with someone that is higher than physical.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, you're right for the right reason. What's the pshat?
Exactly.
Excitement, erusin, the period of being engaged it's a difficult period, there's no doubt about it, but it's a period of continual growth. When you're together, you're getting to know each other better and you're growing. When you're apart from each other, you're getting to understand your emotions better and you're growing. It's a period of continual growth the whole time. When a person gets married, so after a while, you plateau out. I don't know how long it takes. For some people, maybe it takes a couple of weeks. For other people, maybe it takes 20 years, maybe 50. I don't know. But, marriage is something that you become comfortable with each other. You grow a certain amount. And then at some point, you're just so comfortable with each other that the growth you're not really growing.
But this, what we're talking about here is definitely similar to, that week before the wedding when they don't see each other.
Yeah.
They're still, do you know what I mean? They're still like missing.
And it's that week is the week of the highest anticipation that there is.
Yeah.
However difficult it is, right? You don't get higher anticipation than that. Each day is building on the anticipation of the next day. So you've got yesterday's anticipation with today's anticipation. Tomorrow you'll have tomorrow's anticipation as well, until you get to the wedding itself. But you hear what the prophet Hosea, you hear what he's saying? We have to live our religious lives in a state of ve'erastichli la'olam. We have to be in a state of continual growth together with God. Again, it's hard. I know it's hard. Right? But I'm just telling you what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from you. That's all. Don't take it personally. Good. We're back on page 1088. Elohim asher lo yadum v'lo yicholak lehem. What are these Elohim Acherim? Idol worship, right? The Jewish people are going to be worshipping idols that they don't have any shaykhs to these idols. Listen to what the pasuk is saying, which means like this: if you come from a background where everybody worships that tree, right? So at least you have some kind of a reason why you're worshipping that tree, even if it doesn't make any sense, right? But you come from a background where we don't worship idols. So what are you running off to worship an idol for? HaKadosh Baruch Hu's he's got, it's more than just one taina. It's not just one thing that he's saying against the Jewish people. It's bad enough they're worshipping idols. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's like raising an eyebrow and he's saying, what are you doing this for? You want to worship something, worship me. Yipshat, it's the most incredible idea, it really is. The Vilna Gaon says, we're coming up to Rosh Hashanah, right? So Rosh Hashanah is, you've got to give, one of the things that talk about in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is having to give din v'cheshbon in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to give an accounting in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what we've done. So the Vilna Gaon says, what is din and what is cheshbon? He says, din is the sins that I did. The cheshbon, the accounting, is the time that I wasted doing those sins. You hear? It's a double whammy. It's not, it's not bad enough that we did the sins. We're going to get done, not just for the sin, we're going to get done for the time we wasted whilst we were doing the sin as well, because in that time, we could have been doing other things instead. You hear? That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying over here. He's saying like this, Mele, I don't know, you're an atheist, you don't believe in God. So don't come and pray to me, right? But if you believe in God of some kind or another, what on earth are you doing going to pray to an idol? Come and pray to me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hear what he's asking for? I hate to use his words because it sounds very parental. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for consistency. You got to be consistent, right? Which means that if you want to have a religious dimension of your life, you want to have a spiritual dimension in your life. So here I am, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Come and connect together with me. Don't come afterwards and say, I didn't want a religious dimension to my life because you spent your life worshipping idols, so that's obviously not true. You hear? Again, Nochamal, I think, perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to have less. He's going to have less to say to an atheist who gets upstairs at the age of 120 than he's going to have to say to somebody who spent his life worshipping a God which doesn't have any connection with God. Because at least the atheist is being consistent, right? I don't believe in God. So why you're coming and asking me, why didn't I pray to you? I don't believe in God. Right? I mean, at this point he probably does. Once he's up there and he's facing God, then I guess he believes in him, right? But in the meantime. Mm-hmm. And that's why the emissaries, right? What does it say? There are no atheists in the foxhole, right? Because the emissaries, I think that in the heart of every person, I think the emissaries that they really are connected to God. There really is a connection to God. There really is. Just have to work our way through to try to find it in order to be able to connect together. But yeah, I don't know. This stuff that was going on now when they went into Gaza, right? And you listen to these secular soldiers, right? What are they read the things that they say? Extraordinary. Secular soldiers going in and reciting Tehillim and reciting Shema and making sure that they were connected. That you could be as secular as you want, right? Just don't worship idols. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying in a certain way, right? Vayichar af Hashem ba'aretz hahi lavi aleh es kol haklol ha'ksuv b'sefer hazeh. So the Mefarshim point out, there are different levels of God's anger. The highest level of anger is something called charon af. Here, vayichar af Hashem, charon af. Explain the Mefarshim that charon af is only ever applicable to idol worship. If there's one thing that gets God going, right, it's idol worship.
We say in Shema as well.
Huh?
We say it in the Shema.
In the Shema we say it, right? You won't find charon af in context with not keeping the mitzvahs properly or whatever. You'll find charon af only when it's talking about idol worship.
Is idol worship in some metaphorical way? Do people still do it today?
Yeah, for sure.
And what's that? Is that like when you waste your time doing like?
First of all, the Gemara says that somebody who's worshipping idols is really worshipping himself. So if you stop and think about it for a minute, the truth, it makes perfect sense. Because in the olden days, idol worship was the concept of multiple gods. Right? I need rain, so I'll pray to the God of rain. I need sun, I'll pray to the God of sun. I need crops, I'll pray to the God of crops. Look in ancient Greek mythology and look in Roman, ancient Roman mythology, you see they had masses of gods and semi-gods and demigods and you name it and they've got it, right? Because every dimension has to have its own God. Every dimension has got its own whatever, right? So what am I doing? I'm praying to this God right now because that's what I need right now. In effect, what are you really doing? You're praying to yourself, right? Right now I need rain, so I'll pray to the God of rain. Right? I need rain, so I'll pray to the God of rain. I need sun, so I'll pray to the God of sun. Right? I need my crops to grow, so I'll pray to this God or to that God or to the other God.
Selfishness is part of an avodah.
No, for sure, right?
Selfishness.
That somebody who is completely egocentric is somebody who's really worshipping himself. aside from that, I think that there are, in our generation, I think there are different kinds of avodah zarah. So it's true we don't bow down to sticks and stones nowadays very much, right? But you know what? We idolize, for example, sports stars. We idolize, pop stars. We idealize the concept of masses and masses of money, right? And those are, what are those? Those are forms of idol worship.
So that's kind of like a modern form.
It's not the same. It's not as bad as bowing down to the moon. It really isn't, right? But nevertheless, it's a form of some kind of modern day fixation on something that I can relate to as opposed to God. I always remember this, years and years and years ago, there was a guy over here from Toronto, and he told me that he got to meet this fellow called Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky, who was the greatest ice hockey player in the world. Now, in Canada, they take their ice hockey very seriously. And he told me that he got to meet this Wayne Gretzky, got to shake his hand and speak with him for a few minutes, and he told me, he said, he was coming, and I had to wipe my hand to get the sweat off of it before I shook his hand. And he says, until today, I'm convinced that this Wayne Gretzky thinks I'm a complete fool, because I could hardly get a sentence out. So I tried saying to him, seriously, it's an interesting question. I said, first of all, I don't imagine Wayne Gretzky thinks about you at all. So why you're concerned that he thinks until today that you're a complete fool? I mean, I think there's a lot of ego inside of that, isn't there? But I said to him, explain to me what exactly was this incredible sense of awe or fear that you had when you met him. What was it? And it was funny, because he thought, and in the end he came. I said, I'm not sure that I can describe it. All I'm saying is like this, what, I empathize with him entirely, right? We're growing up, we all had our stars, right? We all had the people that that we would have loved to have met, right? I just wish that we were able to our relationship with Hashem, right, should share that kind of awe. Wouldn't that be neat? I mean, wouldn't that be nice just to be able to feel connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that when we stand in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we would stand there with our palms sweating and being concerned what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to think about us? Wouldn't that be neat? It would be great, right? But what's the problem? It's not real for us. Wayne Gretzky is real. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't see him, we can't touch him, we can't shake his hand. So it becomes a lot more complicated. It becomes a lot more difficult. That's for sure.
When Gretzky dies, world keeps on going. Rabbi shows.
Yeah.
Well, also you can fool Wayne Gretzky. You can make Wayne Gretzky think that you're an okay person. God saw what you did last night.
I'll tell you more than that, which is perhaps a little bit more substantial, is that Wayne Gretzky can fool people into thinking that he's an okay person. Mm-hmm. We put these people up on a pedestal and we completely and absolutely ignore their flaws. I've got no idea. Wayne Gretzky may be a great guy. I've got no idea. But lots and lots of sports stars and lots of pop stars and lots of movie stars are the most awfully flawed people. Terrible. And yet we look at them as being, those are our role models.
Because they're flawed.
Not because they're flawed, because they're successful.
Yeah.
Because they're successful at what they do.
Just a quick, I want to see if I got the conclusion. Self-centeredness is in a way.
It's a form of idol worship. You're worshiping yourself.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't love yourself, right?
No, you have to love yourself. You have to have a very healthy, opinion and of yourself in order to be able to function properly over here. But the crossover between having a healthy opinion of yourself and becoming very self-centered, becoming egocentric, is something which is normally crossed over without people even realizing.
Right.
And if truth be told, psychologically, I think that many egocentric people are very much lacking in their own self-image, which is why they behave in the way that they behave. They're trying to sort of compensate for the fact that they don't think very highly of themselves.
In the way it is.
Very, very, very often, arrogance is nothing more than a form of bluster. You're hiding behind
something.
Because I don't have that sense of self-worth, whatever you want to call it. My self-image, in my own mind, my self-image is not good. Therefore, I become arrogant to compensate for that, which is, arrogance very often is, it's the opposite of what the person really is. Right? Again, trying to compensate for something that you don't have, so it becomes something extreme, and it becomes something pretty unsavory as well. Here, we'll do the last verse for today. Anistarot la Hashem Elokeinu, on the next page, 1090. Anistarot la Hashem Elokeinu. The hidden sins belong. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees everything, right? So we shouldn't imagine for 1 second that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't see what we're doing. Lanu ulavanenu ad olam lasot et kol divrei Torah azot. We've got to keep going over here. We have to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do.
I like Rashi's commentary on this.
Yeah. No, very good, right? What does he say? Right, we're going to say that what do you mean? Other people sitting in private, it's got nothing to do with me, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling the Jewish people, you're right. Don't be concerned about what people are doing in private. The only person who's going to be responsible for what he does in private is the person himself, right? But we have to be concerned about what the people are doing in public. That needs to bother us. So here, I tell you a most beautiful story. Very hard for us to be able to relate to this story. I'm telling you straight out. But the Chofetz Chaim, the first time the Chofetz Chaim saw a Jew being Mechalel Shabbos, desecrating the Shabbos, he fainted. And when he came to, and he remembered what he saw, he fainted again. You hear? I'm not saying that that's where we need to be, right? I'm not saying that's who we need to be, because if it is, then we're never going to get anywhere on Shabbos, because you'll be so busy fainting that you just, you better spend Shabbos in a coma. It'll be safer, right? But you hear, it's the most incredible. Are we bothered by the fact that we see other people desecrating the Shabbos? If we're bothered, that's good. But if we're not bothered, that's not good. It means we've become inured to the fact that there are Jews that don't understand that this is what they need to be doing. It's a very very powerful pasuk. It's a very powerful concept. It really is. Yeah, good, fine. Nobody's asking you to take a look inside of the privacy of somebody else's home to find out what they are doing and what they're not doing. Whether they eat heter mechira or they don't eat heter mechira, that's nothing to do with us, right? But when we see somebody doing something wrong, clearly, then at that point we need to stand up and we need to say, we've got to stand up for what we believe in.
If you watch TV in your house, it's fine, but don't go out driving.
Something like that, yeah. Mate, plenty of people, right? There are plenty of people who won't desecrate Shabbos in public. They don't keep Shabbos, but they won't desecrate it in public. I don't know. I think it's something to think about. No?
Do you remember last week's Parshat how you mentioned something about the curse is this person who does this?
Yeah.
And you said they're all done in secret.
All those things are done in secret. That's right. Yeah.
It's interesting how it is.
It's interesting. So it's fascinating, right? Which means that the things that are done. What do we say? We just pronounce that they're going to be cursed, right? Somebody who does something in private and nobody can see what they're doing, we've got no idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aror, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of that. Right. Just so you should know that you can't get away with it. Don't think that because it's in your home that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't see what you're doing. Right. Over here, it's the opposite. Over here, it's saying, no. Our responsibility lies with what we can see. And for that, we have to try to do something. Good. Okay, we're going to stop over here. Mitzvah Hashem. To be continued.